Hey friends, do you have any idea what faith is? I often hear people say, you just have to have faith. But what does that actually mean? Today, I'm going to tell you. But before I get there, if this is your first time here, I just want to personally welcome you to the HomeGrown Ministries YouTube channel. I'm DJ, and on this channel I strive to provide you with biblical wisdom and encouragement to strengthen your walk of faith. And listen, I am so glad you're here. Hopefully, I give you some new information that you didn't know before. But first and foremost, I want to start with a definition from the dictionary of what faith is. So faith as defined by the dictionary is having complete trust or confidence in someone. So when you're going through a rough time, when something bad is happening, and someone else, another Christian, says to you, you just have to have faith. This isn't a magical thing saying God's just going to make sure that everything goes right in your life. What it's actually saying is you must have complete trust in God. And how do we have complete trust in God? Well, we have to know what He's told us in His Word. We have to have complete trust that He's going to be the same yesterday as He is today, as He will be tomorrow. And we have to rely on the promises that He gave us in the Bible. So when someone tells you you must have faith, what they're really saying is you have to cling to the promises and to the Word of God as well as His character. And I'm going to show you how this works. There are tons of promises throughout the entire Bible. I'm just going to look at a few very briefly, hopefully to help you strengthen your faith. So faith is not blind. It is based on God's provision. It's based on what God has told us. It's based on what God has done in the past for us. And it's accepting the fact that He's going to continue to fulfill His promises. He's going to continue to act tomorrow as He did yesterday. So let's look first at Romans 8:28. This is a great reminder from Paul. And Paul says, "And we know that for those who love God, all things work together for those who are called according to His purpose." So this is a reminder that everything works out according to God's will. If you are within God's will, if you are someone that loves God and you are striving to do God's will, it doesn't mean you're going to have a perfect, easy-going life. What it means is that God is going to work out the good and the bad things in your life to accomplish His purpose for you in your life. So if we look at this as an example in the Old Testament, there's a great example of this in the life of Joseph. For those of you who don't remember, Joseph was sold into slavery by his brothers, ends up in Egypt, has a really rough life, but through all of his life experiences, he ends up rising to power in Egypt. And so in Genesis chapter 50, verse 20, he's addressing his brothers, and he says to them, "You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good, to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives." So Joseph was a man who had a hard life, probably harder than you or I have experienced. But he realized at the end of his life that God had a plan, God had a purpose, and he had faith that God would get him through, and that God's will would be done through his life regardless of how hard it is. So again, when someone tells you to just have faith, what they're telling you is to rely on the promises of God and realize that even if your life is difficult, even if you're going through something that's really hard, God will get you through it according to His purpose and His will that He has for your life. So the next thing that I want to talk about is what Jesus says on the idea of worry. I know a lot of people say, well, have faith when someone is worried about something. And what does that mean? How do you have faith to really fight your worry? And where there is faith, there is no fear, because faith squashes fear. So Jesus says, when he's preaching here in Luke chapter 12, he's talking about worry, and we're going to look at verses 27 and 28. And he says, "Consider how the wild flowers grow. They do not labor or spin. Yet I tell you, not even Solomon in all of his splendor was dressed like one of these. If this is how God clothes the grass of the field, which is here today and tomorrow is thrown into fire, how much more will He clothe you, you of little faith?" Remember, God cares for you. God cares for all of His creation. But once you become a Christian, you are a child of God, and God truly cares for you. And as a good father would do, He would do right by you. Not giving you necessarily what you want, but giving you what you need. And God does have a plan for your life. And He has a purpose for your life. And although you may not know what that is, He will bring it to fruition if you have faith and trust in him. Then let's look at something else Jesus said. Jesus talks about how to treat people in Luke chapter 6, verse 35 and 36. So here, Luke chapter 6, sorry I'm having struggles finding it, give me a minute. Verse 35 and 36. So Jesus reminds us this very thing. He says, "But you love your enemies, do good to them, and lend to them without expecting to get anything back. Then your reward will be great, and you will be children of the Most High, because he is kind to the ungrateful and wicked. Be merciful, just as your Father is merciful." So here's a promise that Jesus is giving us. If you treat your enemies well, if you treat them with respect, if you are kind to them, be kind to everyone around you. So he's saying be kind to your enemies. The person you hate the most, don't hate them, but love them. Treat them how you want to be treated, and you will have blessings in your life. Your reward will be great, and you'll be called children of the Most High. Have faith, friends, that if you treat your enemies well, and you treat your friends well, God will bless you. It's a promise. It's right here. And guess what? We are all wicked. We are all enemies of God because we all sin every day. And every time we sin, we make ourselves an enemy of God. But God is merciful to us. So merciful that he came down to earth to live a perfect sinless life, to sacrifice himself so that we can be redeemed and have a right relationship in God or with God if we put our faith in him. So have faith, guys. Trust in God's promises. I do want to look at one more example because it's a great example, and it comes from Luke chapter 7. And this is the faith of the centurion. And I'm going to read a lot here because I think the whole story is vital. So we're going to be looking at verses 1 through 10. It says, "When Jesus had finished saying all of this to the people who were listening, he entered Capernaum. When a centurion's servant, whom his master valued highly, was sick and about to die. The centurion heard of Jesus and sent some elders of the Jews to him, asking him to come and heal his servant. When they came to Jesus, they pleaded earnestly with him, 'This man deserves to have you do this, because he loves our nation and has built our synagogue.' So Jesus went with them. He was not far from the house when the centurion sent friends to say to him, 'Lord, don't trouble yourself, for I do not deserve to have you come under my roof. That is why I did not even consider myself worthy to come to you. But say the word, and my servant will be healed. For I myself am a man under authority, with soldiers under me. I tell this one, go, and he goes, and that one, come, and he comes. I say to my servant, do this, and he does it.' When Jesus heard this, he was amazed." Imagine making the Son of God, making God himself amazed. Remember, it's perception, so you can't really amaze God, but, it's the perception of the writer of Luke. But the expression on Jesus' face was one of being amazed. And Jesus turns to the crowd, following him. He said, "I tell you, I have not found such great faith even in Israel." Then the men who had been sent returned to the house and found the servant well. That's what faith is. It's having so much trust and confidence in God that you know that what you ask, if it's according to God's will, it's going to work out. And that God does have a plan for you, and even if your life is rough, even if it's hard, even if you're sick, all of those things are difficult to deal with. But have faith, friends. Put your trust where your trust belongs to be. Don't put it in man. Don't put it in doctors. Put it in God. And God will get you through. Because at the end of the day, God has a plan for you. And when we talk about sickness or a hard life or my imperfections, at the end of the day, when we get to heaven, God will make us perfect. God will heal us of all illness. God has the power to heal you today, but if he chooses not to, because there's a greater purpose in your life and there's a reason why you are in the situation you're in, God will make you perfect. God will heal you when you come home to him in heaven. So worst case scenario, you have the fact, you have the evidence that you will be made perfect when you return home, if nothing else. So have faith, guys. Keep your eyes on the Lord. Focus on what his will and his purpose is for your life, and you will be blessed in this life and the next. That's what it means to have faith. Guys, let me know in the comments below if you disagree with me or if there's something you think that I missed, Or if you were encouraged by this message, it always helps me to hear that as well. And Christian friends, please continue to be the salt of the earth, be the light to the world. Go encourage somebody else today because the world desperately, desperately needs it. And I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.